of the AR-15, he said, among other things, "This one's really good for deer." And then he winked at me. What the f are you winking about? Hello, I'm Nick Offerman, and we're going behind the scenes of Sovereign.
That's all. So we just gotta play their silly-ass little games.
I've played real people a handful of times over the years, and I'm not good at doing impressions, so I never try and impersonate people. I always sort of take what I think is necessary to tell the story as effectively as possible, and then put it in my own flavor. Christian Schwagel, our writer and director, had a real sensitivity to it. There was a lot of video available of Jerry Kane, where I could see him doing his seminars. So I was able to get the idea, whereas I think Jerry Kane had a real genius for taking these aspects of his life and regurgitating them for a crowd, creating a sense of what turned out to be false hope that they could get out in front of paying taxes and paying more, using his simple tricks, you don't have to pay the man any more of your bills. It was sort of tapping into that sensibility of his, and then, sending it through my Midwestern vessel to be as effective as I could. Well, it's interesting, in this day and age, a lot of people in our country are getting bad information. I grew up in a small Illinois town, and I know people who their news channels or their information streams are just giving them bad information. And kind of all of the channels, in the corporate media are not telling us all of the information, which corporations are actually buying which Congress people. And so we suffer under this complicated time of misinformed delusion. And so the sovereign citizens are kind of like some of the things I've read about QAnon as well, or other ideologies that sort of take things to a pretty severe degree. It's usually involving people living on the fringe in some way, people suffering from poverty or feeling left out of society one way or another. And so Jerry Kane, he latches on to these ideas out of a sense of desperation, but I think it even reaches a degree of mental illness. But at a certain point, when you get pulled over by a state trooper or you're in front of a judge, and you're still sticking to these weird guns, we're like, no, I'm not a property of the state. I'm not Nick Offerman. I'm the agent of Nick Offerman. And the judge is like, well, please tell Nick Offerman he's going to jail. You reach a certain point of no return. And I think to go beyond that and stick to your guns then goes into a level of mental illness. He's almost more of a veteran actor at age 18, than I am at 54. I call him for career advice sometimes. But he's a really experienced sort of old soul. At the same time, he still has a young person's curiosity and willingness to learn and grow. So I was thrilled to get to work with somebody of his caliber. Not to mention, it's always good to have a dreamboat in the movie just to get the teenage girl audience. Well, I come from a small town, and a lot of my family are farmers in Illinois. And as an adult, I've been very aware of how little attention modern society pays to what they call the flyover states, or, out in the middle of nowhere. And out in the middle of nowhere is where so many of the foundational values of our country are being created by the people mainly growing our food and livestock, but also people involved in manufacturing and, just labor jobs. The sort of working class exists between the two coasts in a big way. And so I have my wood shop with which I try to encourage people to make things with their hands, to not just lazily allow corporations to populate our entire lives and just live by pressing buttons on our phones, but Instead, make the radical choice of like making things for your home, making things for your loved one, being together with your family and making things together, even if it's just meals or clothing or what have you. And this movie taps right into that, where all of these victims living on the fringe, one way or another, have been forgotten about by our society. You know, the insurance rackets, the medical insurance rackets, the mortgage market are all preying upon people like Jerry Kane, and we abandon them. You know, it makes sense that they feel that they're not being represented, or that nobody cares about them. And so when you see the landscapes, all of these little towns across America that are like ghost towns that used to be a mom and pop restaurant, a hardware store, you know, it's all been shut down because of the military-industrial complex and the large corporate, the big box stores, and that these are all the sort of forces shaping our world, creating victims like Jerry and his son. I don't know, tight spaces I don't find challenging. The production, which was such a great little indie production. So for example, we had 2 of those vans. There were actually 2 vans, which is wild for a low budget movie, but we were able to swap them out, and that way, if one needed to go through a stunt or one needed to get a different camera rig, we never were waiting on just having the one van. And it was really fun. I mean, you know, I loved when Jacob and I could just hang out and be a family. So in the van, there were a lot of good times, actually. Imagine shooting a scene anywhere else, a restaurant, a home. When they call cut, you have to go to another room, or you have to go out in the yard or whatever. And it's just not as conducive to fraternization, whereas we're stuck in this van. So, you know, immediately there are contests of being gassy, and there are different snack foods that are part of the art department that they've just put in there because we're always on the road. And so we would investigate them, and they you know, had the cheapest jar of peanuts from some big box store, and we you know, would just make each other laugh by eating too much of the terrible snacks in there. And it was a lot of fun. I mean, I can't believe here a year, maybe 16 months after we shot that he's still just 18 years old. He really has been around the world so much. And usually a kid playing 18, usually they're 31.
Sure.
You know,
just shave a bit and you look.
Yeah. But no, he's the real deal. He's a hell of a kid. That's a good question. I mean, Jacob and I think, leaned on each other we did a lot of laughing together. I really love cracking him up. And he has really good parents. His mom and dad were around a lot. And so he has really good manners. I really enjoyed pushing the boundaries of good behavior and misbehaving in a way to make him crack up. I would say filthy things at inopportune moments, and he would often be doubled over cracking up. Our producer, Nick Masseri, is also really incredible at maintaining a great sense of humor and lightheartedness when every day all of the headaches and the fate of the entire movie are on his shoulders. And with a low-budget indie movie, there are very few days where everything's just cool. Yeah, that's easy. In Bentonville, Arkansas, we shot most of the film around Fayetteville. And in, I believe it's northwest Arkansas, there are these 2 towns, Fayetteville and Bentonville, that are kind of like Austin or Madison, Wisconsin, or Boone, North Carolina. They're the outpost of free thought. In past decades, it's where you go to buy weed in states that are maybe not that conducive to open-minded artistic lifestyles. And in Bentonville, there's this incredible art museum called Crystal Bridges. It's a whole compound, and it's a really fantastic community center with really killer art shows. And right next to it was a barbecue joint. And so we all went and saw the art one day, and there are trails in the woods to walk around. Had a beautiful day. My mom and dad were in town, and then we went and got barbecue. This is dark, but it was really strange I don't go into gun shops much. We shot some stuff in gun shops in Arkansas, and gun shops are very popular there. And this guy that worked at the gun shop was walking us through the weapons that we were going to be using. And so he wasn't part of the film. He was, part of the location, but he was kind of talking us through the AK-47, and then there was an AR-15 that was like collapsible. And part of the draw of those is you can buy different parts. They're like a Lego gun. And he said to me, of the AR-15, he said, among other things, this one's really good for deer. And then he winked at me. And it's just really stuck with me. I was like, what the f are you winking about? If you don't mean deer, what do you mean?
Just say it.
And that's terrifying because of the other things besides animals that people are famous for shooting with. Those are generally people of some sort.
Yeah.
And I just found that really disturbing. The true answer is sad for Ron Swanson fans, because for some years now, in order to maintain a medium waistline, I don't go to craft services. I just don't do it, because I cannot practice moderation. I'm all or nothing. And at craft services, trail mix is the easiest high-calorie thing. And the problem is I can't just have a little bit. I would bring my affability. When I get to work with a crew, I'm very grateful. I get to know everybody's name. It's important to me that the crew all feel that they are valued, that their collaboration and contributions are imperative to making a great piece of art. I'm not the kind of hot shot that thinks it's all about me, maybe because I own a mirror. I really like for everybody on set to have a good time and feel like they're happy to be there. Because I've worked with people who like to yell at people or let their ego kind of run the set, and then nobody's having fun. And I don't think you should have a job that you don't have fun at.
Nick, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. I'm really excited for people to see Sovereign.
Thank you. Appreciate it.